Welcome back. I got a new mic. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, I grew up in a hippie village, which means that a bunch of hippies bought a farm and built houses on this farm. But the farm was way out of the way from any major cities. So me and the other kids at this place didn't really have a lot of stuff to do. So we made our own games. And here's some of those games. Well, before I start with this first game, I really need to give you some backstory on our neighbor, because we had this neighbor that lived right next to us, and he really didn't like this hippie village. I don't really know why. I was just a kid, but I do remember one thing. We had this main road that he needed to go through to get to his place, and us being the hippies that we were, had ducks roaming freely. And this fucker drove down our fucking ducks. And to us children, that was like the worst thing you could do, because we fucking loved our animals. So we all got together and we made a game. And this game consisted of walking down his land as close to his house that you could get without being spotted. And on the way down to his house, there were these bushes, and these bushes functioned as milestones for us. And it was obvious, the further down you got, the cooler you were. But the game really got fun when either he noticed us or his dog noticed us, because he was an angry man, and he had a ferocious fucking dog. I swear, the adrenaline pumps I got from that shit still fucking sits in me to this day. I mean, just imagine it, like 3 or 4 kids running for their lives while an angry farmer with his vicious dogs comes out yelling and screaming and dogs barking. And it would be reasonable to assume that once we were noticed we would stop, but I mean, we would do this like 3 or 4 times. And this was probably a weekly occurrence for like a year. But once we got bored of that, we needed to do something else, right? And we did. We had this other game, which were appropriately named Sheep Racing. And this game consisted of us stuffing our hands and pockets with food for the sheeps, walking in to their enclosure, staring them dead in the eye, and then we would run, because these sheeps were diabolical. They didn't give a fuck, they just wanted food. And they knew that we had food. And there was like a herd of 50 of them. It was fucking terrifying. But I mean, to get out of the situation, you would just throw your food on the ground and you'd be good. They would stop chasing you and they would eat the food. But the one male sheep in the group would not stop. He was protecting the herd, so he would keep chasing you. And if he caught you, he would hurt you. So a typical round of sheep racing would consist of 3 or 4 children running around the field with 50 sheep after them throwing their food. Afterwards, one sheep would chase them, and if a kid was unlucky, he would get sucked in the stomach by the male sheep. It was awesome. Really fucking awesome. But there also was this other thing we did quite often. Now, on the farmland, there were a lake that ran through it. And we were all quite curious kids, so we would go on adventures on this lake. It wasn't very deep. It would go down to our ankles, maybe, our belly buttons, if it was really deep. And we would walk down this river. And we would get further and further each time, exploring uncharted territory. But on one of these fateful adventures, my dumbass saw a line and just fucking sucked the line. Turns out there was a fucking bait, a fish bait, on the end of this line, and it just fucking wrapped around my hand and went straight into it. So now I'm standing in the middle of a river, probably 2.5 kilometers from home, with a fucking fish hook in my hand. So half panicking and half crying, I walk these 2.5 kilometers home, where my mother helps me get this fish hook out of my hand. And I didn't go on any more adventures in the river. I was way too fucking afraid. But that was really all that was planned for this video. If you want more stories like this, stick around.